Iron Lords podcast.
Hello everyone, how you doing? My name is Pete, also known as Snalydo, here to give you a little bit of an Iron Lords podcast first look at our game Mortal Shell. Now, for people that have never played the game before, it is a Dark Souls-like game where you end up inhabiting different bodies, or shells if you will, to go through the world and complete killing bosses and so on and so forth. So in this first look video, I'm just going to give you a little bit of information of what I ended up seeing and what I ended up enjoying about this game and why I think you should definitely go pick this up. So now the first thing I want to tell you about is the gameplay portion of the game. Now, as you normally play Dark Souls types games before, you end up being able to wield a sword or an axe or so on and so forth. I myself only got through the first hour and a half or so of the game, just pretty much getting used to the controls, and the gameplay on it was pretty smooth. I'm not a huge fan of those Dark Souls type games, but this was actually one of the few I actually started getting into playing. And I was like, oh, this is actually really interesting. I said, okay, this move does this will do this is how I counter these people. So eventually I started understanding the movements and understanding how things were ending up growing as individuals, as myself, as the individual was playing this game. Now, the shells, from my understanding from other types of members of our team, is that there are a handful of different shells, each with different abilities. That is on lordsofgaming.net if you want to end up going to see more information about those. And you end up having a fast shell, you end up having a more of a defensive shell, and a more of an all-rounded shell. Now, the individual one that I got was the one that was the first one you get when you first enter the world, and you end up getting that first shell, and that is the well-rounded one. Now, the control on this was very easy to understand. You only had the quick attack, the hard attack, you had the regular rolls, you had the parry ability, you ended up having your hardened skill, which if you'll see through the tutorial in the beginning, the hardened skill is essentially your block. So you ended up having that to be used as your block instead of a regular shield or so on and so forth. So you end up using that to reflect damage back to the individual so that you are ending up being able to follow up on attacks. And it ended up working out very well to parry different people's abilities and being able to open up different combos to allow you to continue your combat. And I thought in the beginning that the time frame between rehardening to allow you to use the skill again was too long. But after I started playing for a little bit, I was like, all right, now I understand why they picked this time frame to be able to do it. And it was very, very good. And I really enjoyed being able to learn that as myself. Now, as for its replayability, the game itself is a Souls game. All right, and you know what that means? You are going to die a lot. In the hour and a half that I died, I was playing, I probably died about 20-30 times, because I am not really good in these games whatsoever. But being able to go through that and being able to learn from my mistakes, it ended up giving me these amazing type of interactions with my community, and being able to have them kind of see what I was doing wrong and be like, Pete, what are you doing? You should be going to do this. What are you doing? You should be going to do that. And it was really nice. As for the graphics of the game, they were amazing. I couldn't believe how beautiful the world looked. Now, I looked a couple of times out and I looked at the waterfalls, and I was very amazed at how beautiful those were. And I ended up looking more towards the green grass, and looking towards the facial animations and things that happened. And I was like, wow, this is so impressive. And that was just in the first 5-10 minutes of the game. And then the farther I started going through the game, I ended up noticing that more and more they took time for certain detail. Now, in one of the clips that is in this video is that you end up starting to fight this guy with swords within his body, and you actually see the animation of him grabbing the sword out of his chest, pulling it out, and then being able to just throw it like a javelin right at you. And what ended up happening was you had to learn to dodge it as quick as possible. But the look of that, it was so fluid and clean. It was great. And then eventually, when you get close enough to him, what ends up happening is he ends up pulling both of the swords out of his body, and then he ends up using those to attack. And I said to myself, I was like, this is really, really cool to fight this guy. And it was very impressive to see the animations that they had in place. Now, one of the things I was not expecting was when he got closer to lower health, he ended up grabbing his head, pulling it off his body, and then throwing it at you like a football. And the first time I experienced it, I was kind of taken back. I was like, "You've got to be kidding me! Did this really happen? Did he really just throw a football at my head? This is right his head right at me. I just couldn't believe it." And then after that, you get the poison effect. And one thing I wanted to talk about that poison effect was I took the first poison effect, and I couldn't believe how long it was sitting on my body, and I was just like, oh my god, this is going to take forever to get rid of. I'm like, I'm going to have to keep taking food to replenish my health, and I didn't think it was going to be one of those things where I was like, there's got to be a place or something that'll be able to remove the poison. This is crazy. And then I learned that there was these mushrooms that if you eat them, they deal poison damage to you. So I said to myself, now this system in this game, which is the familiarity system, is something that I've never seen before in another game. And what that was is every time you used a different item, it allowed you to become more familiar with that item, which gives it more additional attributes. For instance, there is a healing mushroom that when you take it for the first couple of times and you start increasing your familiarity with that item, you end up getting maximum. And then it goes from it taking 24 seconds to heal you, and then it takes you 12 seconds. Well, I had a feeling that there was the same type of system with the mushrooms. So what I ended up doing was I ended up finding these mushrooms that that dealt the damage, and I said, all right, what's going to happen when I take them? So I just started popping them until I started getting 100% familiarity with them, and then at that point I ended up being immune to poison. So now those mushrooms gave me the ability to be immune to them. So it was very, very interesting to have that different type of twist in this type of gameplay and this type of aspect of the game, which I was definitely not expecting. But the game was something. Mortal Shell is just one of these solid type of games that you can tell that the development team has taken a lot of time into place for that. And when you don't have a shell on, you can see all the detail in the person's body and trying to see the story that is going through. I didn't get into the story that much to see what the story actually was, and eventually we're going to be going to dive a little deeper in that so that we have a little bit of a better understanding. But it was a fantastic game. I think that if you want a game that's going to give you a little bit of some type of difficulty, definitely pick up Mortal Shell. It is fantastic, and it is great for you to watch. So thank you very much for hanging out and watching this video. Hit that subscribe button so that you can see when we come up with more first look videos, or if you're part of this channel, we have the Iron Lords podcast, which is on every single Sunday. Check the times for that. And then on top of that, we have our King of Statues, which is King David does his personal recommendations for statues you'd like to purchase. And you have other types of videos too. And also make sure you go check out lordsofgaming.net, where you can find where all of your gaming needs. See tech talk. You're looking at new reviews for games, all of those fun things. So thank you again, everyone, and have a good one. I felt like I was far enough away. That sucks. Yeah, the game's called Mortal Shell. You are pretty much a being that has no abilities, I guess you could say. It's kind of empty. And then what ends up happening is that you find these pieces of armor, and they end up going into your body, and they allow you to turn into certain things. It gives you like certain abilities, different stuff like that. We did some what? He just threw his head at me. Oh, I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, that's me. I'll be taking that back. Ooh. Thank you, Silhouette, for that Twitch Prime. I greatly appreciate you for doing that. Thank you. 4 months. 4 months in a row. That was amazing. Thank you very much.